Welcome back to Saturday Social with Dougie, Critchley and Matty, Renton. Right, it's time now to talk the big news of the week, really. Mo Salah and Liverpool. Goodness me, this has swung one way, it's swung the other. We saw the comments last weekend, didn't we, from Mo Salah talking about being thrown under the bus by the club, having a broken relationship with Arne Slot, but it hasn't stopped there.
Yeah, it hasn't. Obviously, we saw him dropped from the squad for their Champions League game in the week that they won, and then news of a potential move in January to Saudi. But then we saw Slot talk yesterday about how they may have mended things. He's back in the squad for Brighton, but it still seems a bit like there's some energy in the air. But before we go into the feature, Dougie, what do you make of the situation?
I think it's a real shame, first of all. I think no one's really a massive winner from this. I'd be pretty confused if I was a Liverpool fan thinking why Salah feels this let down by a club that's just offered him this brand new deal in the summer. They could have let him go. Well, they wouldn't have wanted to let him go for free, of course, but he's come off an amazing season. And to be benched for, 3 games and then throw your toys out the pram to this extent, I just think it's a little bit disappointing. From Salah's side, though, I see that you want to go into AFCON, the tournament that you've got the best chance of winning with Egypt. It's unlikely that Egypt are going to win the World Cup. You want to go into that with the best momentum you can, in the best form, in the best moment. So 3 weeks before, it's pretty disappointing to be dropped. But at the same time, I think he's just probably feeling like he's been slightly underrated his entire career. You know, he's never won a Ballon d'Or. There has been criticism of him in terms of how he acts on the pitch at times. Maybe some people saying he's a little selfish, etc. But his numbers speak for itself. He's been an absolute Premier League legend. And it's just a shame that it's got to this stage in an already messy season for Liverpool when they are grieving the loss of Diogo Jota, for this to also come about. So I just don't think anyone's a real winner.
Matty, whose side are you on, Salah or Slot?
I think I have to lean towards Slot, to be honest. I just think it's unnecessary for Mo Salah, like especially the timing. As Dougie mentions, it's the last thing they needed was another grenade thrown into that mix of what's already been a bombshell season. You know, they're already underperforming, they're already underachieving. The last thing they need is their legend coming out and seeing the club are throwing him under the bus and calling people out. You know, at the same time, he should be performing better. He's not getting picked, and a lot of Liverpool fans were saying it. We need a change, start someone else, drop him. He does that, and then he's not happy. You know, he's one of the best players ever in the Premier League, but I just don't like the attitude.
So I don't mind it to a certain extent. Obviously,
yeah,
we always say that we want players to come out and speak how they really feel. Obviously, there were certain comments that may have gone above the line, but at the same time, you know, your best player, the most paid at the club, he's talking about wanting to play. He wants to still take part in the team. Is that not still a good thing?
So
for
say
Liverpool?
if Cole Palmer at Chelsea was benched for 3 games, would you be happy with him coming out and saying, Chelsea want me out?
Not that they want him out, but the fact that he still wants to play and he's not happy to be on the bench. Like, you can see it from both sides. He still wants to be a part of, turning Liverpool's season around. He said at the start of the season, this team isn't better than last year, but we as a senior leadership have to kind of help them. And then he's benched. So I can see from his perspective that, he wants to be a part of them.
Do you think he deserved to be benched, though?
At that point, yes, but I think other players deserve to be benched as well. And I think that's what he was saying when he said he deserved he's earned the right to have his position because he's been the best winger in the league since he's been in.
I think it was that comment particularly, wasn't it, about earning spots that has really rubbed some Liverpool fans up the wrong way.
Definitely. And I think there might be an element of, I remember watching that Last Dance documentary about the Chicago Bulls, and Michael Jordan always said he kind of had to create enemies in his own head for motivation because he was by far the best. And Salah has been so consistent for so long in the Premier League. He's been so unbelievable that he kind of maybe perceives these negative things to kind of motivate himself at times. And I feel like he's just got this one slightly wrong. Like, you can't come out and criticise the club that's just given you a brand new deal after being benched for 3 games, especially with Slot already under so much pressure. You're basically trying to force the club to choose between you and Slot. And to be honest, because it's always cheaper to replace managers, if Liverpool were to make a decision, it's easier to replace Slot than Salah. So I think Slot's handled it very well, to be honest. Even beforehand, he said Salah's taken being dropped very well. I wonder whether he'd say those things now.
Obviously, he's back in the squad this weekend. Obviously, supposed peace talks took place yesterday. Do you think that's going to be a short-term situation, that he probably has resolved it over the next couple of weeks and he's going to go off to AFCON? Or do you think that could well have just been, this is squashed, he's going to be back permanently now?
The question is this what Salah said, and is it his wave goodbye? Do you know what I mean? He said he told his family to come to the Brighton game, didn't he?
Yeah.
So is it the case where they have just kind of had a little peace meeting? Because to me, after you say that, he's not going to make much of an impact at Brighton, give him much of a chance, you would think, maybe. And then, before you know it, he's off to AFCON, and then all the links to that, he's just going to want that move in January.
I saw Jamie Carragher saying midweek that he thinks actually the big winner out of this is Arne Slot, because it feels like, effectively it's galvanised the group a little bit and fans a little bit in one direction. You agree?
Yeah, I think absolutely, between the two of them, for sure. Especially given the fact they then won in midweek. I thought they had a really good display against Inter Milan. That's an Inter Milan side that shouldn't be underestimated, particularly at home in the Champions League over the last few years. They were incredibly controlled in that game. They looked like they had a more cohesive structure. Curtis Jones playing in a midfield diamond as well. And I imagine that's what Slot will look for. And I do understand the need to experiment. They're on their worst run of form since the 50s. I don't think anyone should be a bit above being dropped.
So do you think he's still going to be there?
No.
You think he goes in January?
Really?
I think he goes. I think you don't come out with a message like that if you don't want to leave, in my opinion. I mean, I've seen it firsthand with Isak in the summer, and I think now that player power is there and he's made his feelings known, I just can't see it ever getting back to what it used to be.
I'd be surprised. I think he'll cool off at AFCON and it all will be well, because Liverpool can't afford to lose him from their squad right now. I think we'll discuss some possible replacements, but they'll be very difficult to land in January as well. I just can't see Liverpool allowing him to leave.
Yeah, I mean, let's discuss some possible replacements. We set Dougie the task of coming up with 5 names that could potentially replace Mo Salah in the long term. Some of these are going to be basically unachievable in the January window, I think it's fair to say, right, Dukes? Yeah,
absolutely. I kind of tried to pick some that are various different price tags, various different experience levels, and various different sort of possibilities. This is Jan Diomande from RB Leipzig. He signed from Leganés in the summer. They paid his €20 million release clause, and it was an amazing piece of scouting from a club that are really known for it in RB Leipzig, because he'd only played about 500 minutes for Leganés last season, but his dribble numbers were through the roof. And in a Leipzig side that have lost Szoboszlai and Kunku, Xavi Simons over the last few years, Diomande, Antonio Nusa and Baumgartner, who's had a really good year as well, have kind of carried this Leipzig, not title challenge, because Bayern are by far away the best side in the Bundesliga this year, but Leipzig are up in second. Jan Diomande has been phenomenal so far. He's still a teenager. He can play on either side as well. He's physically doesn't look like a teenager whatsoever. He's so dynamic. He scored a hat-trick last weekend against Eintracht Frankfurt. This guy feels like he'll be a 60, 70, 80 million pound player within maybe 2 windows. So do you jump ahead of the queue for him and get involved in January? I don't think Leipzig would want to sell him, but he does actually feel like, compared to some on this list, maybe slightly more achievable.
7 goals, 3 assists as well.
Yeah,
he is really young, though. Do you think that they need to go in that direction and not lean into experience?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think us and anyone that's made content over the last few years would be pretty surprised that Florian Wirtz has struggled to put up the same numbers that you'd expect in the Bundesliga. That was one of the Bundesliga's best players, one of Germany's best players. There's always an element of risk signing a teenager, and it would potentially be more of a project player, but I do like the fact he can play on both sides as well, with Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez, and of course Diogo Jota having sadly passed away now and not being an option on the left-hand side. They do feel quite short of options on the left as well. So in a few of my suggestions, I've also thought of players that can play on both sides, but this is definitely not a finished article player, so I do understand the concern.
Matty, what do you make of the Bundesliga tax that we hear a lot of people talk about? Because obviously Jan Diomande would be arriving, and we've seen Wirtz come in, start fairly slow. But on the other hand, Nick Woltemade from the Bundesliga joins Newcastle. That feels like nobody's mentioning the Bundesliga tax when they're talking about Nick Woltemade, are they?
Yeah, because the price tag at the time did raise some eyebrows. You even had the Bayern Munich director saying, we were fools for paying that much money. Well, it doesn't look too foolish now, does it? Because it looks like a bit of a steal, really, at £60 million. And the similar thing with Diomande is Woltemade didn't have that much time, really, did he? He only had one good season at Stuttgart. He broke through, had an amazing season. Now he's leading the line for Germany, leading the line for Newcastle. So it's not a bad shout. I like it.
OK, let's get Diomande up. Let's have a look at your next suggestion, which I think is potentially another Bundesliga boy. Now, this is rogue.
This is punching. But if you had a dream, and we all love a dream. Michael Olise would be the dream Salah replacement. What a player.
How
I totally agree
get
with
him out of Bayern, though?
They won't. And I don't know why he would leave Bayern right now. He's already won the league last year. They look almost certain to win the league this year. I think they'll go deep in the Champions League. Michael Olise has been absolutely phenomenal since joining. There's so many Bundesliga analysts and people that I see on Twitter that actually say he's Bayern Munich's best player over Harry Kane. His creativity is absolutely through the roof. I think this season it's 23 goals and assists in 23 games. He's instantly looked at one of the best players in the Champions League as well. This is a guy that 6 years ago was playing for Reading. He just has not taken a backward step. And now you look at France in the World Cup next year with Mbappe, with Olise, with Barcola, with players like that, with so much depth all across that side. It feels like France will be right in the World Cup reckoning as well.
He does strike me as a player that would come back to the Premier League or after winning everything at Bayern Munich, because obviously he was here with Crystal Palace, he smashed it. And then we've seen links with Manchester City as well, and we know he can do what he does in the league. But I don't know if now.
Yeah, this is not happening in January. I can't imagine a world where they let him go, but this is exactly the sort of profile they should. Sure. There's no risk with this deal. This is not a Yan Diomande. This is someone that comes in and instantly looks like one of the best players in the Premier League.
Matty, where do you think Olise ranks in terms of the best right wingers in the world?
I'd put him arguably top at the minute. I think he's right up there in terms of the form, the numbers he's putting on the board. But I think you're right. I think, it's unachievable right now, but I'd love to see him back in the Prem one day. I mean,
he was doing damage. I mean, even at Palace, I think we forget how good he was at Crystal Palace.
That link up with Eze.
It was unbelievable, the levels he was hitting at his age. He looked so relaxed. I think that's one of the best things you've seen at Bayern Munich. There's no pressure on him. It feels like he's just gliding around the pitch, confident, very relaxed on the ball. I think to see him back would be...
But do Liverpool have £100 million again to sign another forward?
I think that's something we have to discuss here, isn't it? Because they spent 125 on Isak, 105 on Wirtz. Matty, I mean, you were involved in the Isak, not you personally, but
Matty, let him go.
Not my fault. But I tried my best.
Can you see Liverpool going out and spending another, £100 million plus on a winger?
No, I can't. I don't think they can take that risk right now unless they manage to sell Mo Salah for a big fee or make some money another way. I think right now that's why we probably do have to look at a rogue or a different option like a Diomande, where they have to take a gamble, take a bit of a risk, because yes, that would be a dead cert because he's been in the Prem before.
Yeah.
But surely they haven't got the funds to go and do it again.
I mean, if Salah was to leave in January, how much do you realistically think Liverpool would be looking at? He's got 18 months left in his contract.
I think to let him go in January, you'd want £100 million plus.
Really?
Despite his age. Despite his age, you're dealing with Saudi Arabia. That's the only buyer. They're not short of cash, are they? Why would it be in Liverpool's interest?
They know you're in a weakened position because Salah has come out and said these things.
I mean, if he plays today, he still played since his outburst, for example. I don't think Liverpool would let him go in January. He was still player of the year last year.
Less than 100 mil, dude.
Less than 100 mil at his age. You're dealing with Saudi Arabia. You can ask for pretty much whatever you want. Liverpool are in a fairly strong position. They can make Salah stay.
That is true.
I think you'd be lucky to get half of that.
Do you think?
I think you'd go for about 50, 60.
100 million.
I agree, to be honest.
Really? The preeminent Muslim player in the world going to Saudi Arabia, achieving what Saudi Arabia have always wanted, signing Mo Salah. I think Liverpool can ask for whatever they want.
Fair enough. Where are we going next?
Let's put him up and we'll go to 3.
We are going to France and talk about PSG's Bradley Barcola.
Okay.
Now, they kind of missed the boat on this. They probably should have signed him a couple of years ago when he was at Lyon. This is now his 3rd season at PSG. He's already won the treble there. This is me thinking that with Desiree Doué, with Kavisha Kvaratskhelia, with Ousmane Dembele, there's rotation in that forward line for sure. There's Kang In Lee there as well. He does play a lot of football, and he has been really good when he has played. This season, his shots are close to 4 per 90. His dribbles are very, very solid. He's kind of world-class in every category except for shooting, which kind of feels like the exact opposite. Well, Mo Salah's very, very good in pretty much every category, but his finishing's always been exceptional, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, again, it's a little bit of a project. I think he's 22, 23. I think he would again cost 50, 60, 70 million pounds in January. I don't see why it's in PSG's interest to sell. But if you're losing a player of Salah's stature, Liverpool would have to go big.
Do you think he's ready to be a main man, though? Because he's got 5 goals and 2 assists this season, but he misses a lot of chances.
He does miss a lot of chances, but it kind of reminds me of Jeremy Doku a little bit, where Jeremy Doku's now becoming the player that everyone thought he could, where the finishing was just kind of catching up with the rest of his game. And Bradley Barcola gets in so many phenomenal positions. It's definitely a player to kind of watch in the future, but it does feel like whether he'd want to leave PSG, who look like they're going to win Liga at the very least. They're not having their best season as well, but it's a World Cup year. Does he want to join a new environment when he's got a very good chance of playing a pretty good role for France at the World Cup? He's just such an exciting player, and he is predominantly a left winger, but he can play on the right-hand side as well.
Matty, do you think Liverpool need to lean into goals and assists from the player that replaces Salah, or should they be all right with Ekitike and Isak and get someone that maybe is more of a provider?
Where's Jacob Murphy on this list, by the way? That's what Arne Slot wanted, didn't he?
Literally.
That's where Arne Slot
Well, if
wants
that's
him.
the case, then
But
he wants a creator.
It's a true angle, though, because if you've signed 2 of the best strikers in the world, and Isak and Ekitike, who are going to get you goals. So maybe you do need to go for that guy that's happy to be the provider. He doesn't want all the headlines, but he will put the ball in the area for you. He will do the stuff that you might not want to do, make those runs and stuff. So that could be a good option, and that's why I actually quite like the wild card Barcola show, because he does absolutely need to work on his finishing. When he played Newcastle, he looked amazing until he got the
front of
box
goal.
and fired one over the bar.
Yeah.
So he is a real talent, an exciting project, and I think that could be a good option.
All right, let's get him up, and then we'll go to number 2. I think you've got...
Number 2 is Takefusa Kubo. So this is kind of the logic of, I didn't want to just suggest complete unachievable options. I wanted to suggest someone that could potentially be gettable. And Kubo he was a wonder kid. He spent time in La Masia. He was at Real Madrid, then gets sent out on a number of loans. He's been at Real Sociedad for a number of years now. He's not having a good season. But Real Sociedad aren't having a good season. They're really struggling with Zubamendi and Mikel Merino having left in the last couple of years, and Diomande, the centre-back, and Alguacil, their manager that got them into the Champions League, he's left as well. They're 14th in La Liga. I think Kubo's on 1 goal and 1 assist in the league. Not a good campaign, but stylistically, he's probably the most similar, alongside Olise, to Mo Salah. Very small, very diminutive, very predominantly left-footed, very good creative, cutting in on his left foot as well. And if you are looking to sign a centre-back or 2 in the next 2 windows, if you're looking to sign a more natural 6 cover for Ryan Gravenberch, Liverpool, despite spending £400 million in the summer, and this might sound ridiculous, their rebuild's not actually complete. I think most people would say their squad looks quite unbalanced right now. Maybe you have to sign a £30, £40 million replacement, maybe play Florian Wirtz a bit more on the right-hand side, which you could do, maybe play Jeremy Frimpong there as well, and allow Kubo to develop into the player that he definitely has the quality to become.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. So let's put Kubo up, because the last name, I think, is the most talked about
100%.
name in the January window, heavily linked to Liverpool. Matty, before we hear Dougie's reasoning for picking Antoine Semenyo, do you think he will leave in the January window?
Be tough in January, but is the release clause activated in January?
Yeah,
isn't it?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks, so there you go. You have to pull the trigger on that. If Liverpool want to save their season, and if Salah's still not there, then yeah, you go for Semenyo. Again, Prem proven, and let's be honest, 65 million is a really good fee, to be honest, these days. We paid 55 for Elanga. That hasn't worked out yet. But Antoine Semenyo would just slot into that Liverpool side perfectly.
It feels like the going rate for like a very good level Premier League winger now, doesn't it? You look at the fees paid for like Brian and Mbumo, for Elanga, for Alejandro Garnacho. I would say Semenyo at £65 million, based on the form we've seen this season, the power he's got. Feels like about right.
Yeah, it's an amazing story as well. This is a guy that started out at Bath City. He's played in every league in England, and now he's playing very well in the Premier League. He's had a quieter last month or so, but he went off like an absolute rocket. He was probably the Premier League's best player for the first 5 weeks of the season so far. I think he's on 9 goals and assists now.
They all came in the first 7 games.
Yeah, but I mean, what a start. And the fact he can play on both sides as well. You look at how physically developed he is, how he can just breeze past players in transition as well. He's good in tight spaces, can play on either side. I think he looks like the obvious Premier League shout to replace Mo Salah. And having had some difficulties with Wirtz's adaptation, I think they can't afford to miss on this one.
Do you pick Liverpool if you're Semenyo, though? Because let's be real, he's going to have a lot of options in January or summer. Spurs supposedly interested, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. There's probably clubs on the continent that are interested. Is Liverpool your first choice when you know that Isak's there, Katike's there, Wirtz wants game time?
I think at the minute it's a no, especially if Man City come in for you, because there's that there as well. But he may just think, well, I'm the last part of the puzzle here. If I can go in and play alongside Isak and Ekitike and then get back to what they were doing last year, then there's that option for him as well. But it depends on if he wants to go abroad or not, because, like you say, he's not going to be short of options at all.
Dukes, where would you go if you were Semenyo?
I think it will be a Premier League option. I'm not sure anyone else can afford £65 million in January on the continent. I probably would go to Liverpool, to be totally honest. I think Spurs feels like the most natural fit because Odegaard and Tell, and Simmons has played wide on the left as well. But Odegaard and Tell are more development players. Well, I mean, Arsenal have committed so much to Eze. Odegaard's now back.
Chelsea's always there.
Chelsea is a potential option, but again,
they're always there. He's always in the conversation.
He's probably too old for you guys, to be totally honest, and too experienced. I think Liverpool feels like a very good landing spot for him, whether Salah goes or not, because as I said earlier, Gakpo hasn't been in the best form so far this season, with Diaz and Nunez and sadly Diogo Jota as well. They do need more wing talent.
OK, so we see Dukes' full 5 there. Matty, if you were Michael Edwards or you're Arne Slot, who would you be looking at? Or would there be somebody else that he hasn't named?
Apart from Jacob Murphy.
Do you want Murphy out?
No, I don't actually know. You can have Semenyo instead. I think Semenyo is the obvious one. I think that's like a guaranteed one. You'd assume. Didn't quite work out that way with Alexander Isak, did it? But I think Semenyo is going to be the one on that list that just comes in straight away and probably revitalises their season. But you know what? I want to keep a keen eye on Diomande, to be honest. I do.
Yeah, I think
electric.
Diomande is going to catch some headlines. But they're going for Antoine Semenyo, and I think that probably is the most realistic name as well, given he has got the release clause. Some of the other names on there are going to cost a significant amount of money. So there was Dougie's list of 5 players that could replace Mo Salah if he decides to leave, but he might well stay. All will be revealed over the next month or so.